I'm going to call this meeting to order. My name is Peter Hoffman, Chair of the Economic Development Committee. This is a remotely conducted open meeting as a preliminary matter, and this meeting may be audio or video recorded. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Paul Anderson.
Here.
Jason Rowell.
Here.
Jeff Green.
Here.
And I'm Peter Hoffman with the quorum of the committee present. I call this meeting to order at 6:03 on Monday, August 8th, 2022. That said, all of you got a short email about the purpose of this meeting, or the primary purpose, which is to discuss the Bond Brothers temporary permit for a contractor's yard. Tom is nice enough to both ask about our opinion as well as provide a presentation. So Tom, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you guys for convening this meeting on short notice. I really appreciate it. So the background is basically what the outline said. We were approached, the town was approached by Bond Brothers, and they have requested to place a contractor's yard at the old Sears, the back part of old Sears where the parking lot is. They initially came to the town, and the town said, well, you have to go to the ZBA. The ZBA looked at it and said, well, this is really not us, because there's an overlay district that was placed on the mall area, and that was the purview of the planning board. And the planning board wound up getting that back after the ZBA decided to punt it, basically. The planning board took up the matter. We asked the opinion of town council whether we had authorization or jurisdiction to be able to entertain this, and whether we had the authority to make a decision to change what was allowed in the overlay development agreement and the overlay language. Basically, the underlying zoning would allow for a contractor's yard if that mall wasn't there and went away. So, and they'd be able to do it by right. So the town council opined that they felt that we did have the jurisdiction to be able to make this. The planning board, as a matter, has always said minor modifications we would entertain, and if we deem the minor modifications, that we'd be able to make them. This one's a little bit more than a minor modification. So we decided to hold hearings. We had our first hearing at the end of June. It was continued to July. It was continued to August. And we've been gathering information. We've been listening to different stakeholders. We've asked opinions of neighboring towns, because we had to notify them in our hearing notices. We got a threatening letter from the town of Marlborough. They were concerned about the route that the trucks were going to take through Marlborough. They're going to basically go down Donald Lynch, by the hockey rinks, back through, I don't know whether that's Park or when it turns into Hudson, down through that way, and then down part of Washington, down south, get on Lower Main Street. And then they were doing work that's going to be in both Hudson and Stowe. Their duration is about 24 months. So they asked to have this contractor yard in on the Sears parcel for that particular period of time. They've made a couple of presentations. There was some opposition by the neighborhood. They were worried about noise, and they were worried about any sediment or anything like that running into stormwater management, and then eventually finding its way into the Assabet River. Bond Brothers has been before the Conservation Commission, and what they're proposing to do meets what Conservation would have asked them. They've further made promises to the neighbors that they would they're going to erect a construction fence around the facility anyways, that they would put up noise barriers to mitigate any noise that would be from truck traffic. They're planning on storing both soils and piping on site. They've agreed to only have one piece of equipment permanently on the site. front end loader. They're going to have a small construction trailer there. They're going to have temporary bathroom facilities. So they're not going to need to go into the mall at all. It's going to be separate, contained. The reason why this parcel is so attractive to them is the entire parcel is paved. And it makes it easy for them to store their soils, to be able to manage it. They're going to put up these concrete temporary like bins, if you will, like you see at some of the landscaping depots and things like that, where they're going to be able to store stone, soil, gravel, various things, and also their piping. As I said, the neighborhood was really against it. Jay Teach, who's on the planning board, he graciously agreed that he's got a 10-wheeler dump truck that has a backup alarm. And he took it down to the mall property and drove it around, backed it up, beeped his horn, did all kinds of things. I went to one of the neighbors' properties that was adjacent to that, walked with their permission, walked down to their back of their driveway, back lawn part of it. I couldn't hear his backup alarm at all, nor could I hear his truck. I did hear 290. The neighbors were saying it was unscientific. I grant them that. It was unscientific. Was no meters measuring, but I couldn't hear him. The only way I heard him was when he called me on his cell phone to say, "Can you hear me?" And I could hear it through the cell phone. It depends on the way the wind blows, depends on a lot of different things. The proponent has agreed that they're going to put in they call it an environmentally sensitive backup alarm. It basically mimics like a duck call so that you don't hear that beep, beep, beep. So to see if they can mitigate some of that. They've also agreed that they would only do their activities between 8 and 3:30, so that they weren't going to be disturbing people in the morning when everybody's getting ready to go off to work or what have you. And then they wouldn't be doing anything in the evening. They're only doing it Monday through Friday, nothing on the weekends. So they've been trying to really meet halfway with the requests that people are making. We, as a planning board, we haven't had a vote on it. We've been sort of struggling with, various things. And so in our due diligence of asking stakeholders, we figured that, I figured that it would be good to get you guys' input, because understanding where the mall is and their difficulties, this piece of business would aid in their keeping things going. And, they didn't come out and say, we're stopping payment to the town or anything like that, but we know this is going to go a little ways away to helping out with their situation. The thing that we struggle with, Peter and crowd, is that we don't want to try to do stuff ad hoc, especially there, because if they come up with a different idea somewhere down the line, now they're back before us to say, okay, how about this idea, or how about that idea? This isn't ideal, but the situation is what it is. And so that's why we're here, or I'm here, asking for what you guys think, as an economic incubator, whether you think this is a good idea or whether we're nuts and we shouldn't entertain this.
I have a simple question. Who's the landlord? Who's going to receive the benefit?
The landlord will receive the benefit. The town will not, other than there's going to
the
be.
landlord? Is
Yeah.
Sears the landlord, or is the
No,
mall?
no. It's the Solomon, whatever the Solomon Pond entity is. I don't know what they call themselves, but it's a realty trust, I'm sure. But
Right.
that entity is going to receive it. The town may get some in soil import and export. There's fees for that. But it's not going to be,
But it's a Sears
substantial
parking
money.
lot, but Sears is not getting any revenue.
No.
Curious. Okay.
Sears owns the building, not the parking lot.
Right,
Correct.
right. The mall owns the
The mall-
parking lot.
Yeah.
What's the, Tom, have you talked to the mall enough to understand? I mean, what is the benefit they're getting? I mean, I'm sure they're gonna make a case for, oh, we need this to stay alive and, but whatever, but I mean, is this really a substantial piece of money?
I believe it's a couple $100,000.
That, well, without knowing what their budget is and how much they're losing and whatever, that's hard to say whether they'll keep them alive
It
or not.
is. I mean, they of course, they're in favor of this. They came to us with Bond Brothers, urging us to accept this. They said that and we brought up the fact is, okay, if you get a tenant for Sears, what happens to Bond Brothers if, are they tenant at will? Do they get kicked out the next day? And what they felt is that if they got an opportunity to rent Sears, that the renovations that they would need to undertake and the permitting that they would have to go through, it would probably be between a 16 and 18-month period of time before they'd be able to have it available for that tenant. Bond Brothers is looking to start this for the fall, and they're looking for a 24-month lease with the mall proponent or the mall. One of the things that the planning board floated by ourselves internally, we haven't agreed 100%, was perhaps we limit the permit so that it's a renewable permit. They have a permit for 12-month period of time. And then if they're being good stewards and good neighbors and doing what they say they do, then it's renewable for whatever period of time we decide. That would be acceptable to Bond Brothers. I think that they're looking really seriously that if we pull the rug out from underneath them, they're going to have a hard time trying to fill this. But that's
What's the work they're going to be doing?
so they're doing it's like a communications type of thing. So they're digging up the road, digging up the street, and they're putting in utility pipes that will have wire run through them. And it's between Stowe and Hudson.
And what are the opposing points besides noise?
Well, they didn't like the noise. They didn't like the fact that there's going to be additional truck traffic, which won't go through Berlin, actually. It'll go through Marlboro and then Hudson. Hudson, it was funny because we asked Hudson for an opinion. They basically wrote a very short email saying that, yeah, we're not crazy about the route, but, it is what it is type of thing. Originally, the neighbors thought that they were going to come down Bridge and go down River Road east, west, and that's not the case. They're going to stay right on Donald Lynch. Now, Donald Lynch at that spot from the mall, it's 2 lanes. It's sort of industrial in that area, office space and stuff like that. So it's not going to impact any residential. At the peak, they're going to have, I think, 4 trucks, one every 15 minutes at their peak. But it's a bell. So, they're going to start out slow, ramp up, and then tail it off at the end. So noise and dust and, runoff into the river and quality of life issues and, just the, typical, I don't want this in my backyard type of thing.
Is runoff a founded complaint?
Well, I don't think so. They're going to tarp all of their piles, and they're going to line the bins with, at the request of Concom, line the bins with plastic as well. They're going to put socks in all of the catch basins, and they're going to put it's not the hay bales. They're going to do the sock tubes, the soft ones that they stake down. So they're going to stake the perimeter where they're going to have their the fencing that faces the Assabet. So they're going to mitigate as much as they possibly can. Is there going to be any dust? Perhaps, especially if it's dry like it is now, maybe. But they can mitigate it through, wetting the piles down or dust mitigation. So they do have measures in place that they plan to employ if it gets to, be extreme. Now, from that, with the buffer that's between the edge of the mall, the Assabet, and then these people's backyards, I don't think you're going to see any type of, dust or anything like that. Noise, yeah, you might. It's not going to be any louder than 290, I'll tell you right now, because I couldn't hear it. Now, maybe if the wind was blowing a different direction, I might, but and one of the things that they was asked, and we didn't get a 100% no. It was like, oh yeah, occasionally, was whether they hear the backup alarms from the buses that they store there. So there has been buses stored there. Marlboro stores their fleet there. And the fleet leaves in the morning and probably prior to 7 so that they can be on the road to pick everybody up. And there was never noise complaints to our knowledge. So
What are they gonna actually do on the site, Tom? Do you know? I mean, they're gonna store stuff, so they're gonna be dumping and loading, and
Yes.
is that basically what they're doing? So the one piece of equipment is some front end loader
correct.
that'll be there permanently for those 2 years? Okay,
That's correct. Yep. It's a tired loader, rubber tired
Right.
loader, and they'll be dumping soils and basically a staging area for their construction activities.
and how big is the area that they're actually gonna be cordoning off to do this
It's a
in?
good size. So it's most of the parking lot from where the tire change place is down to around the corner. So basically where linens and things is in that whole big parking lot. So it's probably, if I had to guess, a couple of acres, maybe 2.5 acres. So it's a sizable spot.
Seems like a pretty limited scope of activities, though.
They've got it down. I mean, obviously the mall still operates and they don't want to, wreck any of the activities that are going on. They don't want to interact with the mall. They just want the parking lot, basically.
Right.
And the buses are still gonna be stored there too?
They're going to relocate the buses. And I was told it's going to be more towards where the parcel is. That's by the parking garage near where the
Theaters are.
theater is.
It strikes me as pretty low impact and $200,000, no matter what the budget. That's nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
Well, and you would have to assume the mall has done their research on their traffic and they can afford to give up those parking spots.
Right.
So
That's a
No.
good point.
They actually did bring that up because we asked that question and they said with the Sears closed and the fact that the foot traffic is down on some of the other major tenants, that they have more than enough parking and they don't see that changing in the near future.
And we don't, that 4 trucks an hour times 6 hours, that's like 20 to 25 trucks a day
Right.
for 2 years. I could do the math, you can figure out the probability of somebody getting in an accident and getting hurt or God forbid killed because of the trucks, particularly if they're running down the hill past the rink, right? That's how they're gonna go, and then underneath 290 and then
That's
through-
correct.
that's Marlboro and then into Hudson.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure we as a town have no liability associated. Marlboro's pissed at us. They're not going to try to come after the town, are they?
No, the only thing that they did threaten the town is they said that they were going to have to revisit the agreement for mutual aid, which I don't think they can make that threat. And I really can't see them taking that on. I mean, they're the road network, they do own, Marlboro does own a small portion of the road that goes into the back part from Donna Lynch. That's still part of them. And then as they get up towards the hill where that goes up around the back, then it changes over to Berlin. And so we don't have any real road unless they go down bridge, and they're not going to do that because the bridge won't let them, number one, because it's not big enough. And number two, they're not going to take that circuitous route. It's just too crazy. So they would rather stay right down on what they're doing. And then, yeah, I mean, they're going to get into some small road when they get down into Hudson.
Right.
And I don't know if that's, we discussed that as the planning board. Are we responsible for other people's road work and, that type of thing? And the planning board has always taken the opinion that, okay, the world really stops at the town line. And what happens in other people's towns, if they were really vocal about it, we would entertain it. One of the reasons why we're not so threatened by Marlboro, even though they're making a little bit of noise, is the planning board had requested conditions when they decided to permit Target. And basically we wanted to keep the lighting similar to Solomon Pond so that we didn't have a lot of light bleed. And Marlboro basically told us to go pound sand. They were going to do whatever they wanted. And so, but if you're in River Road West and you look at the mall and you look at Target, Target is way more lit than the mall is. Mall is dim compared to Target. And it's just the way that they had chosen to do their rooms and the way that they chose to do the lighting. And there's a lot more light lead. So, given that they're not really, receptive to us when we want something, then I'm really not too concerned about what they want when they want what they want,
Right.
So, and again, it's a limited period of time. And, as a member of the planning board, I'm going to push real hard that if we do decide to do this, it's going to be a renewable term so that, if they're not being good stewards and not, saying what they're going to do or living up to their agreement, they're
And
gone.
we don't get tax revenue from additional tax revenue if we allow this to
No.
happen, though, it sounds like.
No, the only thing we would get is there'd be some fees on the import export of the soils. So, I mean, economically, we don't gain. I mean, the money's not going to us. I don't know if there'd be any appetite from Bond if we say we want something. I'm sure that they'd be interested, but it's not going to be, enough to really move the needle, because it just wouldn't be economically viable for them. I mean, we couldn't ask them for $500,000 worth of, money for open space planning or something like that.
Right.
So how much do we hold them up for? Maybe you get 25K out of them, 30K out of them. I don't know, maybe. But I can't imagine it's a lot. What'd you say?
No,
I don't think it's worth the bad will.
No, I don't either. And if we're, the thing is if we are helping them all and making it continue to be viable, I don't think that that's a bad thing.
I agree.
So
Yeah, but
that's where I land on it. There's other members of the planning board that are like, nah, not so sure about that. But like I said, I'm trying to get all of the due diligence and listen to all of the, people that are stakeholders, and you guys are definitely one of them. I mean, if you guys said, nah, it's not worth it, it makes some people's opinions easier at the planning board level.
Well, and the tough part here is we can't judge that, right? I mean, if their budget is $10 million a year, 200K is not a hell of a lot. I mean, if that was the difference between them staying in business these other 2 years versus not, then I'd be all for doing this. But if this is a drop in the bucket and it's, I don't know, they can put, replace tiles in the ceiling now, because I know they've been fixing up the mall, which is great.
Yes.
I'm less inclined to do it. But, that's the missing piece of information is, okay, how important is this to you guys?
But
And you have an honest answer to it.
But Paul, must it be important?
Yeah,
Shouldn't-
it should be important, because ultimately, I mean, as much as, I hear you, Tom, that, Marlboro tells us to go pound sand, so we're going to tell them to go pound sand. I do these kind of calculations. I mean, we're going to say, yes, do this. And some kid in Marlboro gets run over by one of these trucks. It happens. Those are real statistics. And this is not a trivial project. 2 years,
No.
you can do the math, 250 days a year, 500 days, 25 trucks. I can't do the math that fast. 500, 5,000. That's like 12,500 truck trips. And you multiply that by the miles, you're almost sure to have some accidents.
Sure.
Hopefully none of them fatal. I mean, that's
Right.
it. It's a non-trivial thing in the roads. Tom, you're right. That road down there, once you get under 290 and you're heading it, that's Bridge Street or Bridge,
Right.
right? I mean, it's the same kind of thing. And that's past the residential neighborhood.
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, and the construction is not happening in that part of town. They're going to be running all the way through
Right.
Hudson to
You
get
got to
to
run all the way
Stella.
through Hudson. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised Hudson said, no, we kind of don't care.
Well, because part of the
Because they're gonna
work
get
is in their
benefits.
town.
Exactly. It benefits
They're
their
getting
town.
communication. Yeah, that's right. So I don't think it's as easy a vote, Peter. I mean, if it saved them all, I
I
get it.
don't
But
get the sense that it's we need this, or, we're going to fold tomorrow.
right.
So they definitely made the point was it will help. You know, and
Every
they say
tenant
they're
helps.
viable, so.
Every tenant helps a landlord. It's a
Sure,
puzzle.
right.
And to think that it hinges on importance, I don't know. I mean, if Paul or any of us think it's too risky, that's a different story.
Right.
But if we don't think it's too risky, I don't think it should be judged against the needs of the landlord. Does anybody think it's too risky? I think, Paul, you think it might be too risky.
Well, I'd like to, you know what, honestly, Peter, I'd like to go to the highway statistics and just see what that calculation would look like. I mean, it's, because those roads aren't great and they are busy. I mean, you're running by the skating rink, you're running by the hotel down there, and then it gets really narrow, and that's a neighborhood, and there's a school. I mean, the high school's right there. They're going to be running, and you know, I appreciate Hudson having benefit from this, but I mean, how hard have they looked at, okay, is there some alternative place that you could do stuff, but in the stretch of 20 or the stretch of the road that goes between Hudson and Stowe, you know, down that way where they're going to be doing the construction? It sounds like not, I guess, but.
Bond Brothers we asked that question, and Bond Brothers said that they've got, I think, 3 sites, and this was by far the best. So if we say no, they do have a backup plan. You know, it still gets done. It won't be in our town. We won't have anything to do with it. But they do have alternate sites that are less desirable than this one. And it's basically because of the paving. You know, the whole
Okay.
parcel is paved.
Jeff, Jason?
I mean, I feel like it is pretty low risk. I understand what Paul's saying, but you think about how many trucks are on a road every day. You know, I'm assuming the landscapers that take care of the mall make more noise than these guys are going to make. You know, I personally don't see a problem with it. I do like the fact that you're saying you would make it short term, and it would be reviewed, you know, annually or however you guys decide you want to review it, to make sure they're holding up their end of the bargain as far as keeping it safe, clean, and respectful. So.
And I think the planning board would probably not renew if they found out that the risky behavior that Paul is concerned about came to pass. If there were many instances on or off the town of Berlin's property or confines, that I'm sure the planning board would take that into consideration. Jeff?
I just, from experience, running a sound test in summer is going to be different than running a sound test in winter too, with no leaves to absorb a lot of that sound. And just on a, you know, having in a business that's right on 62, there's, you know, at least 10 trucks a day that go right by my office. I barely even hear them anymore unless they throw that
Jake brake.
that brake on. Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, there's certainly plenty of traffic along 62 that people walk on all the time. I understand it's a bigger road than down by there, but there's still tons of trucks going by there all the time.
And Jeff, what's your point in saying that there's lots of truck traffic? What's the message you're trying to convey?
Just I don't think it's all that much higher risk than other roads are getting.
Yeah.
By adding to this, I'm
Well,
sure
it's
there's
just-
some,
Yeah.
but I mean, trucks go to and from the quarry all the time in town, and haven't.
Yeah, I was thinking more, Jeff, there wasn't, the risk isn't to us, right? It's not, they're not coming into Berlin.
Right.
They're going to Marlboro. I mean, I'm surprised Marlboro is not making more of a stink about this because, you know, at least that part is in Marlboro, by 290 down that section. Yeah.
The rink.
The rink is definitely
Target.
theirs. Yeah.
That's all down through there. That's all theirs.
Yeah, I
then
don't know
there's
where
a
the
small-
town line is once you, between there and the high school. I don't know, like the low
It
area, right?
changes run to 290.
Okay, so
it becomes-
290 is Marlboro and on the other side's Hudson.
Yes, correct. It's
Yeah.
around there. It's probably closer to where the entrance is to the apartments that are up on the hill.
Yeah,
But it's
okay.
just shortly thereafter that it
Yeah,
changes.
so Marlboro doesn't have too much to yell about then. I thought maybe the Hudson, the housing project down there was Marlboro, but that's Hudson.
No.
Yeah, the low area.
Well, I think we've beat this to death. Paul, would you like to re-meet?
Nope, I'm taking minutes, so somebody else makes a motion.
I'll make the motion in a minute, but is there any other comments? Any other suggestions? I think Jason's position and Jeff's position is pretty clear. Paul, I think you're on the fence.
I'm definitely on the fence. I may be inclined to vote against, but it sounds like we're gonna probably vote for, so that's fine.
Well, I think the goodwill versus the risk is huge. I think the goodwill, I think the bad will that if we were to not support it, both the EDC and the planning board would be unfortunate. But I think we've beat this to death. Tom, anything further you want to ask? Or add?
No, and your guidance will be helpful, very helpful.
So in that case, is it okay if I make a motion to support allowing the temporary permit for the contractor's yard for Bond Brothers as a motion to support that permit? Anybody want to?
I can second that.
I think we've discussed this ad nauseum, but any further discussion?
No,
All right, Jason, you're it. What's your vote?
Aye. Second it.
Aye.
Paul?
I'll vote no.
And I vote yes.
So motion passes 3-1.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you for considering this and calling the special meeting for me, and this is very helpful. And if Peter, can you just re-summarize this in a little email to me or something that I can show the board? I'll report on it, but if I get something that, shows that it came from you guys, it would be a little more credence.
I think they would believe you, Tom.
I would hope they would at this point in time, but
Yeah, I'll put something
Okay.
together.
appreciate it. And we're meeting next week on Tuesday. Tuesday next week, 8 o'clock is the continuation of the hearing. If anybody wants to zoom in and put 2 cents in or put some opposition in or whatever, because we're really trying to do the right thing.
Paul's pretty snappy about the minutes. What I might do is take the informally
That'd be perfect.
formal minutes because they won't
Great.
be approved by next week, but
That's fine.
I'll take the minutes, pretty them up and
Yeah,
share.
I mean, even if it's on such and such a day they had a meeting and this is the vote, that's fine, because then I can report on that. I did before, you and I had a ad hoc quick conversation, and I got your take on it, and I did report that, but they asked me if that was the flavor of the rest of the members and I said, I can't say that it was, because it really wasn't. So
Right.
I said I would attempt to reach out and talk to you guys.
All right, super. I
Thank
think-
you. Thank you all.
Stay on if you like. If not, have a good night.
No, I got to jam. I got to get with the selectmen at 7.
All right, best of wishes. Bye, Tom.
Yep. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Welcome. So the only thing we have, pardon me,
No, you're good.
is a next meeting. Do you want to schedule a next meeting, or do you want to wait and then do it by email sometime down the road?
Yeah, once we figure out the sign thing, what's the point of scheduling until we figure out where all that is?
Well, the sign thing I was telling Jason is stuck in legal, stuck between,
so-
Who would have thought it'd be so hard to
We-
accept the money?
yeah. Well, we can't do it. We're stuck without that. So we could either put a placeholder in October or not schedule anything and then schedule something. What do you prefer?
Do October. That way we got something in the books.
All right, good. I'm pretty flexible, so what's best for you guys?
Wednesday, October 19th.
Works for me. Does it work for you guys?
I'd be fine with that.
I know,
Jeff,
as far as I know at this point.
at 6 PM?
Yep.
Okay. All right, anything further?
Oh, I gotta go make dinner.
All right. Thank you very much for arranging your schedule so we could make this happen. I know, Jeff, you were on vacation. Hopefully it was fun. And I'm going to turn the recording off. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye,
aye.
aye.